So there I was, Jake Morrison, proud holder of a bachelor's degree in xenoarchaeology, currently employed as a maintenance technician on Outpost Kepler-7. Yes, that's right. 4 years of university, 2 years of graduate research, and somehow I ended up with a mop in my hand instead of a research grant. The universe has a sense of humor, and that sense of humor is apparently aimed directly at my life choices. Outpost Kepler-7 was what you'd call a backwater assignment. We're talking the intergalactic equivalent of a truck stop off a highway nobody uses anymore. The station orbited a dead moon, cataloging ancient artifacts that nobody cared about, mostly because they were all spectacularly broken or completely useless. But hey, the Galactic Council needed somewhere to stick all the old junk they found floating in space, and apparently this was it. My job, if you could call it that, was to keep the artifact wing clean. That meant dusting off 10,000-year-old pottery shards, mopping around mysterious chunks of metal, and making sure nothing grew mold in space, where there shouldn't even be mold. Don't ask me how it got there. The real kicker was working alongside the alien archaeologists who actually got to study this stuff. They treated me like I was invisible, which was fine most days. But sometimes I wanted to remind them that I actually knew what half these artifacts were supposed to be. Not that they'd listened to the janitor. Commander Veltrax was the station's security chief, a 7-foot-tall Vrothian with purple skin and enough military discipline to make a drill sergeant look relaxed. He treated everything like a potential crisis. Coffee machine breaks, security protocol Delta, someone sneezes in the wrong corridor, possible biological contamination alert. The guy had probably never relaxed a day in his life. All 4 of them. Vrothians have 4 hearts. Overachievers. Then there was Professor Quilnip, a Zentari who looked like someone had crossed an octopus with a very excitable professor. 4 arms meant he could gesture wildly in multiple directions while talking, which he did constantly. The guy was obsessed with ancient civilizations, specifically the Primus culture, which had vanished about 10,000 years ago. Every artifact on the station was supposedly connected to them, according to Quilnip. Every single one. Even the stuff that was clearly just space garbage. The crown jewel of our collection, if you could call it that, was the beacon. A massive crystalline structure about 12 feet tall, covered in symbols nobody could read, and completely inert. Dead. Had been for 10,000 years, according to carbon dating or whatever the alien equivalent was. Quilnip loved that thing. Spent hours staring at it, taking readings, muttering theories. Me? I had to clean around it twice a week. It was a Tuesday. I only know that because I'd been tracking Earth days on my personal calendar, trying to maintain some connection to home. Not that it mattered in space, where every day was exactly the same level of boring. I was in the artifact wing with my cleaning cart, which was about as high-tech as you'd expect for someone in my position. Mop, bucket, some alien cleaning solution that smelled like regret and citrus. The beacon loomed in the center of the room, doing absolutely nothing, as it had for the past several thousand years. I was complaining out loud because when you're alone most of the day, you start talking to yourself. Sure, Jake. Study xenoarchaeology, they said. You'll make groundbreaking discoveries, they said. Nobody mentioned you'd be scrubbing floors while a 4-armed squid professor gets all the credit. The mop bucket was particularly uncooperative that day. Wheels didn't work right. I was wrestling with it, trying to maneuver around the beacon's base, when one of the wheels locked up completely. I yanked on the handle. Nothing. Yanked harder. The bucket moved suddenly. I stumbled backward, arms windmilling, and slammed directly into the beacon. For a moment, nothing happened. Then everything happened. The beacon exploded with light, not like a bomb, more like someone had plugged in the universe's largest Christmas decoration. Crystalline surfaces that had been dull and gray for millennia suddenly blazed with colors I'm pretty sure don't exist in normal physics. Blue, purple, gold, and something I can only describe as screaming green. Alarms started blaring throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed. I jumped back from the beacon, still holding my mop like it was going to protect me from ancient alien technology. The beacon was pulsing now, energy crackling across its surface. Symbols scrolled across it, glowing and shifting. The air around it hummed with power. Commander Veltrax burst through the door, weapon drawn, looking like he was ready to fight off an invasion. "Security breach. Morrison, step away from the artifact." "I didn't do anything," I shouted back, which was technically true if you didn't count the part where I'd literally crashed into it. Professor Quilnip arrived seconds later, all four arms clutching various scanning devices. When he saw the beacon, his eyes went wide. All six of them. "By the sacred voids of the ancients, it's active. The Primus beacon is active." More scientists poured into the room. Scanners appeared from everywhere. Everyone was shouting in different languages. The beacon just kept pulsing, completely unbothered by the chaos it had caused. Veltrax was trying to establish a perimeter, which was hilarious because the room was already packed with excited researchers. Quilnip was practically dancing, taking readings, babbling about energy signatures and harmonic resonance. "What did you do, Morrison?" Veltrax demanded. "I tripped into it with my mop bucket," I said, feeling my career somehow reaching new lows even as I stood next to active ancient alien technology. "You tripped into it," Veltrax repeated, like he was trying to process how someone could accidentally activate a 10,000-year-old artifact with janitorial equipment. "The wheel was stuck," I added, because that detail was definitely important. Quilnip rushed over with a scanner, waving it around me like I was the artifact. "Fascinating. The beacon responds to human biosignatures. We must document everything. What were you thinking about when you touched it? Were you experiencing any unusual sensations?" "I was thinking about how I wasted 4 years of my life on a degree that got me a job mopping floors," I said. The beacon pulsed brighter, symbols racing across its surface faster now. Everyone stared at it, then at me. "Did it just respond to his emotional state?" someone asked. Oh, great. The ancient alien technology had feelings. Turns out, accidentally activating a legendary ancient artifact gets you attention. The kind of attention I absolutely did not want. Within 6 hours, news had spread across the entire sector. Within 12, it had reached the galactic core worlds. Within 24, my face was being broadcast on news feeds I didn't even know existed. Human maintenance worker. Awaken's ancient beacon was apparently the story of the century. Alien dignitaries started arriving. Scientists, military officials, even a few religious groups who thought the beacon had spiritual significance. The station went from hosting maybe 40 people to over 300 in the span of a week. And they all wanted to meet me. I was poked, prodded, scanned, interviewed, and analyzed more times than I could count. Alien reporters asked me the same questions over and over. What did it feel like to touch the beacon? Did you have any premonitions? Do you believe humans are the chosen species? My answer was always some variation of "I tripped," but nobody wanted to hear that. They wanted a cosmic destiny story, not a clumsy janitor story. Professor Quilnip had become my unofficial handler, following me around with scanning equipment, documenting everything. "The human subject displays no unusual characteristics," he'd mutter into his recorder. "Blood pressure normal, brain activity typical, no apparent genetic markers that would explain the beacon's response. That's because I'm completely ordinary," I told him for the 50th time. "Ordinary humans don't activate Primus technology," he countered. The worst arrival was Captain Renix, a Calasian military commander who looked like someone had designed a lizard to be as smug as physically possible. Calasians were known for two things: advanced military technology and an insufferable superiority complex. Renix strutted into the artifact wing like he owned it, his scaled skin gleaming under the lights, followed by an entourage of soldiers. He barely glanced at the beacon before fixing his attention on me. "This is the human?" he asked Veltrax, managing to make human sound like an insult. "Jake Morrison, yes," Veltrax confirmed. Renix circled me slowly, looking me up and down. Primitive species, limited technological development, no significant military presence, and yet somehow this one activated technology his kind couldn't possibly understand. "I'm standing right here," I said. "The beacon activation is clearly a fluke," Renix continued, ignoring me completely. "Some random confluence of bioelectric fields, nothing more. I'm taking control of the situation. The Calasian Empire has the resources and intelligence to properly study this phenomenon. Commander Veltrax's jaw tightened. This is a Galactic Council station. You don't have authority here, Captain. We'll see what the Council says about that. While they argued about jurisdiction, Quilnip was practically vibrating with excitement. I've developed a theory, he announced to anyone who would listen. The Primus civilization seeded genetic markers throughout the galaxy. Humans must carry a specific sequence that acts as a biological key. Or I just bumped into it really hard, I suggested. Nobody listened. The beacon seemed to agree with me, though. Every time I walked past it, which I tried to avoid, it would pulse and glow. Sometimes it displayed symbols. Sometimes it hummed. Once, it projected what looked like a star map, but nobody could figure out what it meant. I just wanted to go back to my quiet, boring maintenance job. Instead, I was the galaxy's newest celebrity, which was exactly as terrible as it sounds. 3 weeks after I destroyed my life with a mop bucket, Professor Quilnip finally cracked the beacon's message. He burst into my quarters at what I'm pretty sure was 3 a.m. station time. "I've done it!" he shouted, all 4 arms waving frantically. "The symbols, I've translated them." I sat up in bed, squinting at him. "Do you know what a door chime is, Professor?" "There's no time. The beacon is broadcasting coordinates, specific spatial coordinates to a location the Primus called the Primus Vault." That woke me up. A vault? Ancient technology. Preserved knowledge. Possibly the greatest archaeological discovery in galactic history. Quilnip was practically bouncing. And it requires human biosignature for access. How do you know that? The message specifically states, "The inheritor shall walk the path." You activated it. You're the inheritor. I tripped into it, I said again, because apparently this needed to be my catchphrase. Within an hour, the station's command center was packed. Quilnip presented his findings to everyone who mattered, which unfortunately included Captain Renix. The star map I'd seen projected? Coordinates to a moon in an uncharted system about 6 days away by jump drive. The symbols around the beacon? Instructions for finding the vault and warnings about its security systems. "This is clearly a military matter," Renix declared immediately. "The Calasian Empire will mount an expedition. We'll retrieve whatever technology exists and ensure it's properly secured." "Properly secured in your military's hands, you mean?" Veltrax shot back. "This is a scientific discovery," Quilnip protested. "It belongs to the academic community." Everyone started arguing at once. Jurisdictions, rights, protocols, the usual bureaucratic nightmare. I raised my hand. Nobody noticed. I raised it higher. Still nothing. "Hey," I shouted, "I have a question." Everyone stopped and looked at me. "Do I have to go?" Silence. "You're the only one who can interact with the technology," Quilnip said gently. "The beacon responds exclusively to you," Veltrax added. "Without you, this entire expedition is pointless," Renix said, making it sound like a threat. "Right. Cool. Just checking if I had a choice. Apparently I don't." I tried every excuse I could think of. I had maintenance duties. My back hurt. I was pretty sure I was allergic to ancient artifacts. I'd used up all my vacation days, none of it worked. The Galactic Council got involved and made it official. I was being assigned to the expedition as a, I kid you not, specialist consultant. They even gave me a pay bump, which would have been exciting if it wasn't attached to flying across the galaxy to interact with potentially dangerous ancient technology. "Think of it as an adventure," Quilnip said encouragingly. "Think of it as your duty to your species," Renix said pompously. "Think of it as mandatory," Veltrax said, which was at least honest. The expedition would consist of 4 people. Me, because I was apparently the chosen one. Commander Veltrax, because someone needed to keep everyone alive. Professor Quilnip, because someone needed to understand what we found. And Captain Renix, because he'd threatened to file 17 different complaints with the Council if he wasn't included. This was going to be the longest 6 days of my life. The ship was military issue, which meant it was efficient, uncomfortable, and decorated in that special shade of gray that screamed, "We gave up on aesthetics decades ago." Renix is doing naturally. The Calasian captain had insisted on using his vessel for the expedition. 6 days in close quarters with these three was exactly as fun as it sounds. Quilnip spent most of the journey theorizing wildly about what we'd find. Perhaps the Primus left behind construction schematics for megastructures, or evolutionary acceleration chambers, or the secrets of transdimensional travel. Or maybe it's just their old storage locker where they kept junk, I suggested. Quilnip's face fell. All 4 of his arms drooped. You have no sense of wonder. I have plenty of wonder. I'm wondering how I ended up here instead of quietly mopping floors. Veltrax spent his time running security protocols and checking equipment. The man had packed enough weapons to fight a small war. When I pointed this out, he just said, "Adequate preparation prevents problems." What kind of problems are you expecting? Unknown problems. Those are the worst kind. Renix mostly strutted around his own ship, making sure everyone knew he was in charge. He'd given me a speech on day 2 about how humans should be grateful that more advanced species were willing to include them in important galactic matters. I'd nodded politely while imagining pushing him out an airlock. We came out of the jump drive near a small, forgotten moon orbiting a red dwarf. According to Quilnip's readings, this system hadn't been visited in recorded history. The moon itself was unremarkable, rocky, airless, cold, and sitting on its surface was a structure. By the ancients, Quilnip whispered. It was massive. A complex of buildings, or maybe one giant building, hard to tell from orbit. Smooth surfaces, strange geometry, and completely dark. No energy signatures. Nothing. We landed near what looked like an entrance. Everyone suited up. The moon's atmosphere was basically non-existent, so we needed full environmental gear. As soon as my boots hit the ground, lights appeared on the structure. Not all at once, but in a sequence, like someone was turning on hallway lights as we walked. Except we weren't walking yet. "It knows you're here," Veltrax observed. "Great. The building has opinions about me." We approached the entrance. Massive doors covered in the same symbols from the beacon. They didn't budge when Quilnip tried scanning them. Renix ordered his soldiers to try forcing them. Nothing. Then I got within about 10 feet and they just opened. "Of course they did," I muttered. Inside was like walking into a museum designed by aliens who had very different ideas about architecture. Corridors that curved in ways that made my eyes hurt. Chambers that seemed bigger on the inside than the outside. And everything activated as I walked past. Lights flickered on. Holographic displays materialized. Symbols scrolled across walls. It was like the entire facility had been waiting for someone to come home. "Stay close to Morrison," Veltrax ordered. "He's apparently the key to everything." We moved deeper into the facility. Quilnip was scanning everything, babbling excitedly about energy signatures and structural integrity. Renix was trying to look important, while clearly being annoyed that the facility ignored him completely. I walked up to a door. It opened. Walked past a console. It activated. It was like the whole place was programmed to treat me like a VIP guest, which would have been flattering if it wasn't so weird. The corridors led us downward, deeper into the moon's crust. The facility was massive, far larger than it had appeared from the surface. Chamber after chamber of technology, all dormant until I got close. "This is remarkable," Quilnip said. "The Primus must have designed this as a repository, a treasure vault of their civilization." "Or it's a really elaborate storage unit," I said. But honestly, even I was getting impressed. We reached a central chamber, huge, circular, and in the center was something that looked like a combination between a computer terminal and a sculpture. As soon as I entered, it blazed to life. Holographic displays filled the air, symbols, images, star maps, and then somehow a voice. Not out loud, more like, in our heads? The translator implants everyone wore kicked in, rendering it into language we understood. "Greetings, Inheritor. You have been awaited." "See?" Quilnip shouted triumphantly. "Inheritor. I told you. We are the Primus," the voice continued. "Long have we watched the younger races develop. Long have we waited for one worthy to receive our legacy. Renix puffed up. Finally, recognition of superior species development. This facility contains the accumulated knowledge of our civilization, technology, history, philosophy, all preserved for those who would come after. I'm ready to accept this responsibility on behalf of the Calasian Empire, Renix declared. The holographic displays shifted, showing genetic diagrams, biological charts, comparison data. The inheritors must meet specific criteria, the voice said. We scattered beacons across the galaxy, designed to identify the species best suited to carry forward our work. Everyone leaned in. The chosen species must demonstrate balance, neither too aggressive nor too passive, neither too advanced nor too primitive, not specialized in any extreme direction, but rather adaptable, flexible, capable of growth in any direction. I had a sinking feeling I knew where this was going. The humans of Earth meet these criteria. They are, in all measurable ways, perfectly average. Silence filled the chamber. I'm sorry, I said. Did you just call my entire species average? Correct. Humans demonstrate median levels of aggression, intelligence, emotional capacity, physical capability, and technological development when compared to the galactic standard. This makes them ideal inheritors. We're the most average species in the galaxy, I said slowly. Precisely. You know what? I started laughing. I couldn't help it. Here was ancient alien technology, the legendary Primus civilization, stuff that had been lost for 10,000 years, and their big revelation was that humans won the cosmic lottery by being spectacularly mediocre at everything. This is hilarious, I gasped between laughs. Professor Quilnip looked confused. Commander Veltrax looked thoughtful. Captain Renix looked like someone had just insulted his entire family tree. This is absurd, Renix sputtered. The Calasian Empire has superior technology, advanced military capabilities. We are clearly the more qualified species. The facility's voice responded, calm and unbothered. The Calasians demonstrate excessive specialization toward military applications and hierarchical social structures. This creates limitations in adaptability. They are unsuitable. Unsuitable? Unsuitable? The Vrothians possess excessive devotion to protocol and regulation. The voice continued, apparently on a roll. The Zentari display compulsive curiosity that borders on recklessness. The Calasians exhibit aggressive expansionism. All species demonstrate traits that, taken to extremes, lead to civilizational instability. Quilnip raised a hand tentatively. So you're saying we're all too specialized? Correct. Extreme traits lead to extreme outcomes. Aggression leads to warfare. Excessive curiosity leads to dangerous experimentation. Rigid protocol leads to stagnation. The Primus learned this through millennia of observation. And humans? I asked, still grinning. Humans are adequately aggressive but not warlike, sufficiently curious but not reckless, capable of order but not rigid, technologically progressing but not overreaching. In every category, humans score near the median of galactic standards. This makes them the most stable long-term stewards of knowledge. We won by being boring, I said. You won by being balanced, the voice corrected. Renix was having what I can only describe as an existential crisis. His scales had lost some of their color. My entire species has been deemed unsuitable because we're too good at military organization. Essentially, yes. Veltrax actually cracked a smile. There is a certain logic to it. The facility began processing something. Information started flowing to connection points throughout the chamber. The knowledge transfer will begin. All accumulated data will be transmitted to human academic and governmental networks. Wait, all of it? Quilnip squeaked. Shouldn't there be safeguards? Verification processes? The humans will do what they will with the knowledge. That is the point of inheritance. We do not control their choices, we simply provide the tools. Over the next several hours, the facility uploaded thousands of years of Primus knowledge. Scientific theories, engineering specifications, historical records, art, philosophy, everything. It transmitted directly to Earth and human colonies, public access, no restrictions. By the time we left, humanity had just received the greatest educational upgrade in its history. Every library, every university, every research facility now had access to information that would take centuries to fully explore. The trip back to the station was quiet. Quilnip was processing the implications. Veltrax was already writing reports. Renix was sulking in his quarters. When we docked at Outpost Kepler 7, there were reporters everywhere. Again. The story had exploded across the galaxy. Humans declared most average species was apparently an even bigger headline than the beacon activation. I gave exactly one interview. They asked me how it felt to represent humanity at such a historic moment. Pretty average, I said. Back in my quarters, I found an official notice. The Galactic Council had updated my job title. I was now Specialist Consultant to Xenoarchaeological Operations. They'd given me a significant raise. Not life-changing money, but enough that I could afford decent coffee instead of the station's terrible synthesized stuff. More importantly, I was back to maintenance duties. Turns out being the genetic average hero didn't mean I had to stop mopping floors. I was fine with that. The whole adventure thing had been exhausting. 2 weeks later, I was cleaning the artifact wing when I walked past a display case containing a small stone tablet. It had been dormant since it arrived on the station. As I passed, it started glowing. I stopped, stared at it, watched symbols scroll across its surface. Then I turned around and walked directly back out of the room. Some mysteries could stay mysterious. I had mopping to do. Besides, I was perfectly average at avoiding trouble, and I intended to keep it that way.